place too. And even like worse was it didn't really seem like they had anything. I mean, for me, getting to see these people's faces after so long, that was huge.
It was
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Just like, wow, that's what they look like. I mean, that's kind of why I watched it.
Yeah, Jen and Asia and like
yeah,
all of those.
it just like paints a fuller picture of them and made me feel differently than I had before. But I do think that, but on the flip side, that with the family, like, I also ethically didn't really love how much they used the family to like emotionally manipulate the audience, especially the big reveal with the cancer with the mom. That was just
no.
Oh, they didn't turn off the filming when they asked them to turn off the filming, first of all, but then just the whole thing was just like, I don't know, man.
That makes me feel uncomfortable inside.
It was really uncomfortable. And, like, the other thing is, like, I don't have to think Adnan's guilty to feel bad for his family.
No, not at all.
I feel bad for his family either way.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, whether he's guilty or not, what his mother is going through. I hate that for her. That's horrible. And, like, I'm not comparing the two at all as criminals, but just want to say, Ted Bundy's mother thought he was innocent too. So,
right.
you know, they always think that.
Yeah, I don't think you can blame a mother. Like,
no.
I think unless you were presented with incontrovertible evidence, you know, and even still, like, as a mother, I think that's just nature.
Yeah, I don't think that you can believe that about your own, like, offspring. I totally understand why the family is going to think he's innocent no matter what. But, and I feel horrible for them, but that doesn't like mean using their emotions to make me think he's innocent is gonna work.
Kind of feels like just a cheap trick to, you know, like playing on the pathos of the viewer, you know, like, oh, well, like bring in the mother, bring in the family, like then you'll feel sorry for them instead of actually doing the work to like try to present actual facts on like why maybe Adnan would be not guilty.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really cheap, and it does just, like, I don't know what you're trying to do there, but it makes me respect, like, Rabia and the whole documentary a little bit less, because I follow her on Twitter, and I think she's really clever. I have respect for her, whatever I think of Adnan, but it was just like, oh, this is manipulative.
Well, yeah, and I wonder how much, like, she personally signed off on. Well, of course, she probably had, you know, signed off on a lot of things.
I think so.
But I wonder how much of it was, you know, them being like, oh, well, this is going to play really well, or, you know, this is, you know, going to get sympathy or whatever, you know, because it is, I mean, it's a documentary, but it's not, the intent is not a journalistic, you know, foray. It's for entertainment. So...
Yeah, and I mean, besides the information dump at the end, it really didn't seem like they had that much new evidence to show. So I think it was also just, like, I guess going along with, like, the family and where he's at is part of the story. But, yeah, it wasn't great. I didn't love it. And speaking of that, I just, like, I don't know what the whole documentary really accomplished. Like, we had these couple pieces of hard evidence at the very end of the last episode, and it was like, oh, well, that's cool to know. I wish we had talked about this, like, the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead
and,
of
like,
just regurgitating information that has already been on your podcast.
Right. And, like, gone more in depth with it. Because basically, you know, the big reveals... They kind of go into Don, and then don't really do anything with that. Because I don't think they have anything,
I don't think they do either. But it's also like, do they not have anything because there's nothing to have, or because it's been, you know, 20 years, and at, you know, the point of when we could have investigated it is past. Yeah.
I do think, like, that interview on his porch, I really did kind of, I was, like, one of the people who was like, maybe Don did it. You know, I don't say that out loud because I think it's irresponsible. Note to other people who make media. Yeah. But like then the interview, he was just like, listen, like I loved her. I'm disabled. I don't know what to tell you. You know, I honestly just, like, when I saw him as a real person with a real face, I was like, oh, I don't know. You know?
I mean, because they didn't talk to him in depth, which I don't blame him. I certainly wouldn't have either. But I don't know. I still think he is a character to cast reasonable doubt because, you know, they were only seeing each other for however long, a couple weeks. He was older. He always seemed a little shady to me, and the fact is we just don't know enough about...
Yeah, well, and talking about, like, how, you know, that the documentary uses these human figures to play on your emotions.
Yeah.
I think that was, I mean, having Don there and presented as who he is today, like, I think that can very much affect, like, what you feel about him, especially because, like Stephanie said, they didn't really go into any, like, they didn't investigate him properly back then.
Why have we never seen a picture of him then? I think that's weird. Or them together.
I haven't seen one of them together, but I feel like I have seen one of him.
Well, they were only together for, like, weeks,
right?
Weren't
Yeah,
they?
it was like a couple weeks.
And I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff that...
That's actually why I think it's less likely that he did it, though, than Adnan. Because the ex... Like, you know what I mean?
There's
like, losing control, is way more likely than, like, the new puppy love stage, I think.
Even though it's a creepy relationship to begin with.
Yeah,
probably.
well, that's... Which was my feeling on it. But again, we just don't know. Like, we don't know.
It doesn't make a ton of sense the more I think about it for, like, a brand new boyfriend to kill the girlfriend, though. Like, that's something that comes later.
Unless he was, you know, a sociopathic killer, which, you know, in that case, like...
But I think he would have done something else.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, I think we would have,
in the last 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. Especially having, quote, gotten away with this ridiculous crime. Yeah, so it's almost like that's the only way that would work. But, I mean, who knows? That's...
You would think, though, because he definitely should have been investigated at the time, that they do have, like, this new DNA evidence, which was, like, another big reveal.
Right. And DNA and fingerprint.
Yeah. That they could at least, like, get a warrant for him.
Right.
To rule him out. Because that should be at the least.
Yeah, but then according to the Baltimore police, the case is closed. Like,
yeah.
And that is one of my big issues with the whole case is that, you know, they had a suspect and they built their narrative to fit the suspect rather than the other way around.
Right.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do think that all of these documentaries and podcasts did a great job at explaining why, you know, Adnan should not have been convicted.
Yeah, that
by
is
the
a very
standards
important
we
point.
like have in our like court of law.
Regardless of whether or not I think he's guilty, that's hard to say because there is a family out there that's like grieving for their loved one.
I mean, it's frustrating either way because I don't think we know what really happened. Like, it's obviously not, you know, the state's version of what happened because that's been proven to be impossible. But, you know, whether it was Adnan or whether it was someone else, we may never know because the mishandling of the initial investigation prevented that from ever happening.
Which, speaking of other biased documentaries, is the same exact thing I think of Making a Murder. My thought is that he probably did it.
Yeah.
But they botched it so bad that we will never know.
Yeah.
And it's the police's fault in that case. But, yeah, I think the other big evidence, too, was the whole Mr. S thing. Which, Olivia, you said you didn't get to the last episode, but there was basically a diamond-shaped imprint on her back that no one had ever seen. Oh man, speaking of ethics too, it's like showing the
I know, the diagrams and
the body, and it was a little like, whoa, you just really don't care about her family at all, do you?
No wonder we didn't see interviews from them.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gross.
Jesus. But there was this diamond shaped thing, and they basically think it was like a cement press, like cement whatever. It was a tool used for cement work. Is what they think. And again, this is the investigator, the private investigator hired by the Rabia defense team. And so that actually points back at Mr. S, who found the body. But I never thought he was suspicious to me. The whole thing of, like, why would he walk so far in the woods was, like, because he's doing drugs.
Yeah.
He wasn't peeing. He was doing drugs. That's why he doesn't want to answer your question.
Right.
That's why he went so far into the woods. Like, it's really not some big mystery. He was doing drugs. Like, it's not, like, I don't know. I just always thought that, like, whole, like, what was he doing back there? Like, we know what he was doing.
Yeah, like, that whole thing of, like, well, why would he stop when he was halfway to work just to take a pee? He could just go, well...
What do you do?
He wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
I know, I really never thought of him as suspicious either.
Well, it's just somebody else that they're kind of trying to... It feels like they're trying to throw under the bus.
out there.
To, like, just be like, there's these other suspects that you didn't investigate, but they don't have any actual good... evidence for any of the other
right.
And if you've successfully hidden a body that you don't want to be charged with a murder, like, why would you call it in?
Yeah.
Like, that's actually, like, half the part of, like, getting away with murder is just getting rid of that body. So, like, that makes no sense.
No.
Oh, that's true. I can't, for the life of me, think of why
Right, it's just...
one would decide to tell the police where they hid their own body that they buried.
For, shits and giggles. Make it more interesting. It's getting too easy. No, which, I mean, he definitely doesn't strike me as a cunning sociopath again.
Right.
But...
Well, and I don't know, like, drugs or, like, just for real peeing. Like,
I
walk quite a ways back into the woods whenever I pee off the side of the road.
Right.
Could be anything, really.
Yeah, and so, like, the cement thing was interesting, but, I don't know, it also, like, do we know for sure that is what that random diamond shape is?
Right,
because they were like, that's the only thing.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's no other possible tool that could have come from. Okay, well,
and, like, it just happens to conveniently point at someone else very vaguely who isn't Adnan.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I get what they were doing, and I think that's valuable because it didn't happen in his original trial, which is why I do think ineffective counsel is a valid claim, because there were other, possible suspects that could cast reasonable doubt that were not investigated. But I don't think that there's any conclusive evidence to say, no, he didn't do it.
No.
Right.
Well, and then going back to the Olivia thing of, like, the unluckiest person in the world. So, like, you happen to lend your cell phone and your car to someone who would be so easily flipped on you immediately on the day that she was killed after saying that you were going to kill her. And then he confesses it to someone. He also has a friend who's willing to say that he confessed it to her before the police ever talk to you. Because that's a really important point that, like, really digs into, like, Adnan's innocent point of view, is that Jen says that Jay told her that night.
Yeah.
And there was no police contact to Jay until, like, a week or 2 weeks later. Why would Jen say that?
Yeah. I mean, her story has changed a little bit. Nothing like Jay's, of course, but who knows with her. I don't know if she's super reliable, but I will say I think drugs play a huge part in this whole story. I think they were very involved in the culture, and I
don't snitch.
Yeah, and I do think if we go with Adnan is innocent, I think that drugs and drug dealing can explain a lot of the activity that was going on. I think, that's probably why Jay had his car and possibly his cell phone, because Jay was out of high school.
Yeah.
But
I actually think that the whole role of drugs plays a lot into how he could be guilty, too, because that whole, idea that, I don't know where it came up, but, like, basically they said that whether it was, like, in court and we never heard it or someone else theorized it, whatever, but that, like, Adnan told Jay to get him 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And then he was like, you're helping me with this body or I'm turning you in.
Right.
Which explained why Jay would help him when they're not that good of friends. But
that was the other thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way the entire time listening through all of this, though, is they're not that good of friends argument.
That's bullshit, too.
Like, that's no way.
He has your car.
You're giving him all of your stuff, A. B, like, why? I don't know. Just, like...
So that's why